So with that, welcome to After the High with me, as always, Brian and John.
Hi.
This week we are joined by Chewy.
Hello.
And first time on the show, Ryan.
Hello.
Yeah. Who originally told me he would never come on the show.
I did? Shit. I forgot. I'm out.
See you guys later.
Oh, fuck, I'm a man of my word. I gotta go.
I really came back down, or else no one will respect me.
So today we're going to be talking about a very popular movie from last summer. I should keep doing this in my very calm, monotone voice, and everyone will turn off the episode.
Good times.
It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. But first we need to start with our most popular segment of Where Have You Been Doing? I'm going to go first because I was just doing mine out in the living room.
Okay.
I finished the other game I was playing, which is Dragon Age, which we'll do an episode on eventually. And I picked up South Park, The Stick of Truth. Star Wars, The Stick of Truth.
There's probably an anagram of Star Wars in that title.
Yeah, it could be somewhere. But I'm playing South Park, Stick of Truth, and it is pretty much exactly what everyone told me it would be. It's very funny, very simple. But if you like South Park in any way, shape, or form, like even kind of mildly and only like 10, 15 years ago when it first started, there's still enough in this that references all of South Park. So they really went for everyone, which is, I think, kind of cool. Like, they went for, if you've ever been a fan, there's something in this game for you.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Even just someone who hasn't kept up with it, I thought it was fun, the stuff I saw you play.
Oh, yeah. If you haven't kept up with it and you don't know why they're wearing these costumes from their specific Lord of the Rings episodes, that doesn't matter because you'll still have Mr. Hanky from way back in the day. And you'll still have Underpants Gnomes, if you remember those. Like, they're all... there's so much in this game. It's kind of ridiculous. But it's been a lot of fun so far.
Would you say it's the first really good South Park game?
Well, they never made any of their other ones. They just licensed them.
Oh, they licensed them. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense then.
So this is the only one they've ever.
Because I played a couple of licensed ones, and they're just like...
Yeah, they're just terrible.
Yeah.
But like this is the first time they've actually made one on their own, and much like
and it really shows from what
it does. But honestly, that's really all I have to say about it because I'm still pretty early on in the game. I think I've only done one day, and I think it's a 5-day game. But from what I've played so far, I really enjoy it.
All right, I can go next. This is somewhat recent because my kind of awareness of time has kind of collapsed lately, but I recently watched a Billy Wilder film called The Apartment on Jandy's recommendation. Jack Lemmon.
I think we've mentioned this movie like 4 times on this podcast.
Have we?
I think not you specifically, but I feel like people have come on the episode like
Really?
4 times. I just watched The Apartment.
Really?
It's really random. People keep popping up to this.
That's
thing.
weird. Yeah, because I was worried if I'd mentioned it before, but I don't really remember
I
ever
haven't
saying.
seen it.
Yeah, Jack Lemmon, Shirley MacLaine, really fun movie, funny, heartfelt, really good writing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's easy to take Billy Wilder for granted if you don't watch a lot of his films or haven't watched many in a recent span of time.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very good writing, very clever. Just wordplay. I don't know. I want to go back and actually watch a lot more of his stuff, just because I'm not as well versed. But The Apartment was really good,
Right.
and I can't recommend it enough if you haven't seen it.
Oh.
I had to do a whole
And
thing.
Jack Lemmon is like, I've only seen older Jack Lemmon. A lot more of his movies where he's older, but some of the younger actor days, he's really like he has some great physical comedy.
Wait, so have you never seen Some Like It Hot?
Oh, I've seen that.
Okay.
So there's that, and then this, but I haven't seen a lot others.
I was gonna say, Some
He
Like
is
It
my favorite grumpy old man.
Hot. I don't really care about the Grumpy Old Men movies.
But yeah, Some Like It Hot, and this is about all I've seen of his around that age range.
Cool. Ryan, what have you been up to?
So I, too, recently was the victim of a flash sale
Ooh.
on Steam.
Oh man,
I've spent the last 24 hours playing the 5th installment of a game that's been my guilty pleasure since the first one. It's Tropico.
Oh, wow.
Tropico.
Are you aware of this at all?
I've heard of it. I've never played any of them.
It's basically SimCity if you play a dictator and you run a banana republic or an island, basically. You get you now in the 5th installment. I'm playing an entire dynasty, a family of people. Who I think the default name was El Jefe or something, so I kept that, and I'm ruling a small island in the face of things like uprisings, rebellions, typhoons, worker strikes, trying to toe the line between the USA and the USSR in the Cold War. You kind of can play through the entire 1900s So right now I'm at the era of the Cold War.
It really makes you sound like you're playing a horrible person.
Yes, that's a lot of the fun of the game. Because if you could kind of single out people who are the rebel leaders and the uprisings against you, and you can have them assassinated or imprisoned, but it doesn't matter.
To get the message across.
Yeah.
A lot of video
Do you have
games.
advisors like in SimCity?
You do. You have an advisor. It's been like kind of a comic relief in every game.
But a lot of video games, you kind of are the dick.
That's true, but...
Except in this war.
This
Well,
just sounds
no,
more-
actually, you have to be a dick in that to survive.
No, but I get that you're usually kind of a dick in video games, but this sounds a little more horrible.
You're the head dick.
Yeah.
You're the head dick.
Well, you can, you have to introduce such things as contraception bans, prohibition.
Really?
You can make people pay for their health care, otherwise they get free health care.
Ah.
Oh, bummer.
So you're
You can-
America.
You could be America, you could be a little more socialist. It's up to you.
I didn't realize they had 5 iterations.
Yeah.
I
I know.
thought there were like 3. I remember 3 of them, but
Yeah. 3 was, I played a lot of 3.
Huh.
They have caricatures of famous historical figures that you interact with throughout the years.
nice.
Still sounds pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
Chewy?
I don't think we've seen any new movies, but I did finish Xenocide.
Okay.
I did finish reading that, and it left on such a moment of, like, it's not even a cliffhanger ending, it's just, you have to read the next book ending.
Mm.
I was just like, so much is happening.
Leaves you hanging kind of, not in a good way. But
But
like, what was this versus...
Now what was this? It's just, but no, everyone's just getting going. Things are moving.
Oh, I see. So, like, the latest Game of Thrones book. It's like, just when things start getting interesting, oh, we're done.
Well, that's
One
the
more.
thing. Xenocide, I mean, to me, honestly, the book never stopped being interesting. If you guys read any, it's kind of, the end of his books are really connected, but in Xenocide, you're dealing with the ramifications of the end of Speaker of the Dead, where the Stairways Congress is mad that the scientists intervened on the local population of this other planet called the Beguinos, or Little Piggies.
Yeah.
So they're sending a MD device to blow up the planet, essentially. But Ender and all of his cohorts are trying to find a way to stop that. And in the way of doing that, they have lots of social issues that they're dealing with. A lot of which sentient species is better than the other? Do we all deserve to live, or should some of us die for the sake of the others? And
Only the best people deserve to live.
Yeah. It's very, very philosophical and very topical, really.
That's how you make a
So
good series.
So it's a good book then. Yeah.
It's a very good book.
All right, cool.
But we need to keep moving today. So today, our film is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Okay, so the movie today cost $170 million. It made $259 million stateside. Joke you want to make there?
No.
Worldwide, it made $714 million, which I still find really weird, and we'll have to move into that at some point here.
$714 million.
Worldwide, but
wonder
I
what-
always find it weird that Captain America does so well overseas.
Yeah.
Being
It's like
Captain America.
the caricature of America.
Captain
Here's the
Jingoism.
cowboy.
It's just like-
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, sure.
Maybe that just speaks to how charismatic Chris Evans is.
That could be.
He is a pretty man.
He is. But well, like
This
I
is
said,
true.
Well, how did Fantastic Four do over there? It's the real question.
I don't think he did very well.
He wasn't... Somehow, in his maturity, Chris Evans is
Yeah.
getting prettier.
Light them on fire and they don't want to
Kinda
see
You,
it.
you would think in other countries it would have done great because there was a woman who was invisible.
Oh!
All right.
And with that, I'm out of here. See you guys.
Okay, so
Peace in the Middle East.
Ryan, have you listened to our episodes at all?
A couple.
Okay. Hey, are you familiar enough to know that if it's your first time in the episode, you're required to do the breakdown of the movie?
No, I don't think I knew that.
Okay,
It's
cool.
exciting.
So you get to do the breakdown of the movie.
You have 2 minutes. They timed me last time.
No, you get 3 minutes. We gave you 3
Oh.
minutes. You finished in 2:30.
Okay, because you were stressing me out.
Finishing early.
Yeah, which is fine. I have a timer set up on my computer here. You have, I'm sorry, it started already a little bit, so you have 2 minutes and 58 seconds
That's exciting.
to give an entire breakdown of the movie.
Okay, so this movie is about, guess who? Captain America. It starts out, we see he's kind of having a hard time adjusting to his new life in the present day. We see the Black Widow picks him up and they go on what is basically a classic James Bond recovery mission. They have to infiltrate a hijacked ship, recover some SHIELD technology. Captain America is pissed that Nick Fury kept that from him. So we eventually see Nick Fury gets ambushed by some bad guys pretending to be cops. He goes to Captain America's apartment where he is shot from across the roof. Captain America chases the shooter and he gets away.
I don't think I'm going to see this movie. It sounds terrifically boring.
No, it's really boring. So is that my time?
He just kind of walked away.
And then the second and third acts happen. It's pretty great.
That's not how
No,
it works.
you still have more to go.
Oh, sorry.
You have 1:45.
Okay, perfect.
What happens in the second and third
So, Captain America also goes to see Alexander Pierce, who is the head or one of the guys in the World Safety Council or something. And then he also gets attacked by some other SHIELD agents. He goes back to reunite with the Black Widow. They recover the thumb drive that Nick Fury gave to Steve Rogers. And they go to what we find out to be the old SHIELD base, which they find out is actually an operation center for Hydra.
1 minute left.
Not bad. Okay, so then the turns out that the computer talking to them, who's the guy from the first movie, spoiler alert, was actually stalling, and they get blown up.
30 seconds. Got about half a movie to go.
All right. They reunite with Sam, who we introduced to earlier in the movie. He turns out to be the Falcon. Recover that, actually off screen, which is pretty impressive. They have to infiltrate the helicarriers, find out that Nick Fury is alive still. They have a classic Act 3 fight sequence on the helicarriers, showdown with the Winter Soldier, complete their mission. We get some great character deaths, and then we
well, I did promise.
close up the movie.
I did promise if you don't finish in the time restraint, I will make fun of you. So your pants are not flattering.
Damn it!
I cut real deep with my insults.
Oh, right.
You had 3 minutes to come up with an insult, and that's what you came up with. It was clear from the start I wasn't gonna make it.
You did not. That was not a good burn. That's not even close.
I love it.
I'm pretty sure all of my burns for people who can't do it are going to be about equally as good.
They're on par with singes.
We're going to move into today. Where do you want to start on this thing, John?
Let's start with the least prominent aspect of this movie, the title character.
The Winter Soldier.
The Winter Soldier.
Winter, I'm having a really bad week, guys. I just can't seem to actually kill anybody.
It is kind of...
It's an
jumping,
interesting...
like just hitting it right in the head. It is very interesting that they introduced this guy as the most deadly assassin in history.
Except for that week.
And yeah, he has. They start out like he has 3 people to kill. He always gets his target. He's over 3 by the end of the movie.
He's got Stormtrooper syndrome.
He really does. It's like Stormtroopers. Like, these blast marks are far too accurate for Sand people.
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean? They can't hit shit.
And it's problematic on a lot of levels, but specifically that the movie can't have him be as good as he's supposed to be, because then the movie stops. I mean, so a lot of his problem tie into a larger kind of logic problem that we run into in this movie. You know, I mean, I enjoyed the movie. You can get, forgive a lot of that stuff, but
yeah,
a lot of the problems kind of focus on that character and how he's used. Well, because if he's used to the best of his ability, you don't have really much of a Captain America movie.
I don't think they could really name the movie Captain America: The Rise of Hydra.
Right.
The reason
Spoiler.
they had to
Yeah.
name it Winter Soldier is because they couldn't reveal that the real villain is all of Hydra, who has infiltrated SHIELD.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
makes sense, but it was disappointing. The first go around watching the movie, I was all like, "Oh, Winter Soldier's gonna be like a badass," and then by the end of it, I mean, I was just kind of annoyed by the first time I watched it. I, like Brian said, I did enjoy the second rewatch because then I knew what was going on. But the first rewatch, I was just like, that kind of blew because I wanted Winter Soldier. I didn't want Hydra.
Yeah, and I think it is a movie that really benefits from a second watch. If you're a comic book fan, if you're not if you weren't familiar with like Captain America and like the story of the Winter Soldier and you just went to this movie, I feel the feeling you'd go, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I had a ton of fun with it. But
This
if you go
movie
in,
is probably the most forgiving to the casual viewer
Yeah.
than many of the Marvel movies.
Exactly. And I
mean,
think,
That's actually great because this is the one instance where I haven't read a single comic book outside of when he's with the Avengers. I have no clue what happens in Captain America's life.
yeah, and I think they do a really good job of kind of enjoying the Captain America lore and like, it's kind of there, but we're not really going to do it. And I think
what
going
if
into
this happens?
Yeah.
What if this happens? Which is, and I feel like if the ultimate goal of all these movies weren't to kind of lead to these bigger like Avengers movies, we would probably get that Winter Soldier story that you remember, that you know of. But since this isn't as in service, like he's just kind of a cog for things to happen with.
Right.
As with a lot of these side characters that we kind of know and love.
Right.
They kind of sacrifice that for this greater good, I guess.
Yeah.
It is one of the things that's kind of sad about specifically the Captain America movies, is like how Thor and Iron Man in their own movies really, they're still connected to the larger Marvel universe, but they still feel like their own movies.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, this Captain America movie didn't really feel it. It felt like Captain and S.H.I.E.L.D., Captain in the whole universe. And now in his third movie, it's going to be Civil War, so it's still not going to be a Captain movie. It's going to be Captain and everybody else. He's not really getting his own movie again.
No, but
I don't think people want it really.
Yeah, I think they didn't really show up that much for his first one. I think the first one was phenomenal, but a lot of people disagree with me, and like that's fine. I really enjoy it. I don't need.
I'm one of those people who agree with you because the first one was phenomenal.
I have not met any of those other people.
And it covers all these things and allows for stuff like Agent Carter on TV, where you got like this block of time where nothing big picture Marvel happens, so you can be free. So I mean, you could say that kind of the way they're pushing him to be more toward these bigger things is a little bit disappointing.
They're still making good movies. Yeah, that's what it really comes down to.
Well, and I feel like by framing it, starting with the Winter Soldier character and how he's used in this, you can really frame if you're going to accept the rest of this. Because if you really needed him to be a bigger role, you're going to have a problem with a lot of other things they do in this. This, I think, Captain America was the first time where they matched the hero to the genre perfectly.
Yeah.
This is the spy action thriller. There's gonna be intrigue, twists and turns, and combat. This is where I was like, okay, I'm on board with Phase 2.
Yeah.
This is where I was like, I get it.
It's sad that you're on board with Phase 2 at the second to last movie of Phase 2.
Yeah. that's a bigger discussion. It's a bigger discussion because it's this and Guardians where you're like, all right. Whereas the other ones are kind of like, okay.
I can make a very strong argument for Dark World, but I love Thor.
We've really enjoyed Thor.
I actually just watched Thor recently, and I was like, okay.
I love that movie.
But anyhow, I think the weakest link was Iron Man 3.
I agree.
It was terrible,
Yeah. Jumping back quickly to the Winter Soldier, I want to mention before we move on to other things too far, the character design itself I thought was fucking awesome.
Yeah, and the actor, like you can't tell in the first movie if the actor could handle being the Winter Soldier and his kind of off play, but the actor really pulled, like he kind of stood up to the plate.
He did and he didn't. I think there's moments where he knocked out of the park, and then there's moments where it's like, there's a reason we don't see a lot of you.
Yeah.
Oh, I think they had him in mind. They knew where they were going.
You can't hire somebody to be Bucky Barnes.
Bucky,
you know where he ends up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just don't think the only part of him that failed for me in the movie was when he had to do his confused face.
Yeah, I think that's more
like,
of what...
who's Bucky? Like, that line wasn't delivered that great.
Oh man, Bucky. Who's he?
Like, that was just the flattest moment for him in the whole movie for me.
But I more credit that to Anthony and Joe Russo than I do to him.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was a moment of not knowing how to deal with the situation.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
those guys, and that's not their strength, those directors, right?
Yeah.
So
you couldn't have a wisecrack at that moment. That wouldn't make
no, you couldn't have a wisecrack. It's a moment where they needed to realize it's a moment to let something hang and to fall almost flat for a moment, as opposed to he didn't need to say anything.
Yeah.
A very solid just look would have been much more effective than, who's Bucky? Like, shut up.
Right.
Shut up, you're Bucky. You know you're Bucky.
We already got
we all
that.
know you're Bucky.
We already got that in the stare. We know he's Bucky.
Yeah.
We know he doesn't know he's Bucky.
Yeah.
Don't tell us.
Yeah. All right, well, we should keep moving along with these things. So we've talked Winter Soldier. Let's flip it right over and just talk about Captain America, I think.
All right.
And it's something that I think is really sad when Chris Evans says he's not going to act anymore, because if you've ever seen him interviewed or if you've seen him in other movies or stuff like that, I really feel he's a way stronger actor than people give him credit for.
Yes.
Because when you see him like interviewed and he's just kind of a funny, goofy guy, and then you watch this and he is so not that in this movie, it's incredibly impressive. And I still don't think he gives the strongest performance in all of his movies, but he chameleons himself so well to a part I think it's incredibly impressive.
And he's dedicated.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He gives 100% to the role, and it shows. I mean, we've said this before in many other movies with other different actors.
Yeah.
That it shows when they are really into the role and having fun with it.
Yeah.
He is into it, having fun with it, and very serious about it.
Oh yeah.
I haven't actually seen him in a role that I thought he was phoning in. I mean, there's a lot of movies of his I haven't
even
seen,
in the Fantastic Four movies,
he was
giving 100%. And,
Yeah.
you buy it.
And he's being a different
Regardless-
character, too.
A totally different character.
Different
In
kind of hero.
Sunshine, he played a great character.
Yeah.
And then Snowpiercer, and
Completely different. Yeah.
he's great.
He is. He's really good. And it's depressing that he doesn't want to keep acting.
What does he want to do instead?
He wants to direct. Actors.
Classic mistake.
Classic.
But anyway, so Chris Evans, Captain America. I think Captain America in this movie, it felt like they didn't know entirely what to do with him.
Yeah,
It was a little jumbled. Of, do we go completely fish out of water? Like, I don't know how to survive in this world. I'm 94 years old, or is it more like, no, he knows exactly what's going on. He's a total badass.
Well, he was reactionary this whole movie. He was
He
very like pushing forward in his first film, and in this one, he just kind of kept reacting to what was happening. He still was very proactive in reacting to it, but in reality, he's just reacting.
And I think in some respects the acting helps it, but I think it is a problem with the way the guys who made these two Captain America movies are kind of handling it in the modern age.
Yeah.
They did pretty well moving him to the present from the past in that first movie. But now that he's here, they're kind of like, what do we do with him?
And it's a problem that speaks largely to the Marvel universe. And Chewie and I mentioned this when we were watching it. Like, we're never going to get to legitimately know these characters. And it's something like where we watch Agent Carter, and it's like you get to know Agent Carter over the course of those 8 episodes, and you kind of get like who she is, why she's doing this stuff. Like Captain America, you don't really ever get that. You don't get it with Iron Man, Hulk. You don't really get it with anybody.
Yeah, you get an Agent Carter that they miss him. Like, there's a lot of moments where you're like, dang, I'm
really
seeing
sad.
this end of it for the first time. Wow, they miss him. Like, wow. But then in these movies, you don't kind of get that.
Yeah.
But you can't get that because you have to be economic in these stories, so you miss out.
And you have to be economic, and they still are all over 2 hours. Like they try to tell the best story they can. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of something that I wish I could get a little more of. Like, I'd like to know a little bit more of Steve Rogers just on his own. Like, what does he do when he's not being Captain America and saving the world? Like, I know that's a weird thing to throw into an action movie, but you kind of
when you don't have a lot of him, you basically have winners. The first Avenger, then the Avengers, and you got a span of time where he's not around. You don't see anything from him. You kind of want to know what's going on.
Yeah, and it's weird because I feel like I know the characters from S.H.I.E.L.D. better than I know the characters from the actual Marvel movies, and it's like these characters suck though. I want to know those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you think it'd be a fair... would you like to trade off, though, giving up the level of acting and production value in the movies to put that into a TV show and try to tell it over the span of several years?
No, I want both.
Yeah.
But even with characters
the Star Trek model.
Even with characters who kind of suck after, like, 20 to 30 episodes, you can get on board with them.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though, is I feel like as much as I can complain about it, I still think they do the best they can with the time they have.
Yep.
Yeah. I still feel like I know who he is. I enjoy Captain America's character. I look forward to seeing him in more things. So that speaks volumes to the fact that I've only seen him for now 6 hours.
Yeah.
In that amount of time, I've spent this much time with him, and I still feel like I know him and want to see more of him.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's both a positive and a negative. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to make a comment, but I'd love to watch Captain America watch movies. Like, sit down with Captain America and watch The Matrix.
Yeah.
How would he react to this stuff?
So
Those
wait,
are
you're
little
saying
things
they're in the computer?
That would be one of the, like, it's
Explain
one of those little
computers.
moments. That would have been one of those little moments that would have gone from fucking miles. Just him just watching Star Wars, just because they own both. They could throw it in there. It's like,
Well, and they even call out like a little bit out to that in Avengers, which is why for Avengers 2, they're probably going to reference his still kind of out of time because he didn't quite get how to rewire the thing, the helicarrier in the first Avengers.
Yeah. It was that, and then, but the one that they called it Avengers is the best was when they made the Wizard of Oz reference. He goes, I get that reference.
Yeah.
I also love it when they...
So yeah, but to what you said, this is the best version of what this is that they could have done.
Yeah.
And any detractor should actually try to do this with those limitations, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, for all the nitpicks that we're going to go through, this was a tight movie.
It was. And
It is probably the tightest, and I like Guardians more for the humor end of it, but this was actually the tightest. This is the tightest we've seen in any of the movies.
Yeah, it's it speaks volumes, I think, to Anthony and Joe Russo, who I think are getting way overrated for their success in this movie, because I still credit more of it to Kevin Feige than I do almost every one of the Marvel movies, with the exception of the Avengers, because Joss Whedon I don't think bows to Kevin Feige, but I think he deserves way more credit than the Russo brothers do. But I think still, from Community and You, Me, and Dupree to this, it's still very impressive.
I think their pitch session for this job must have been amazing.
Yeah, it had to have been.
And
We'll do a good job. Trust us. Trust us. Trust us.
And for a Marvel action movie, they understand geography. And I don't know if we want to get into that.
No, we can't. It's a good time to talk about the directors, because it is very impressive that they are able to pull off action sequences and understanding how like it works.
And it didn't look boring.
Scene.
The combat never looked boring, which, if it's just two guys beating on each other, it can get boring within 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Now, the problem was with Captain America: The Winter Soldier is that it happened to come out the week after the Raid 2.
Yeah.
Which is just unfair. Like,
it is unfair.
Because we had just seen the Raid the weekend before.
And then you go from the Raid 2 to this, and it's like, these guys are barely even touching each other.
Yeah.
It's like,
you could watch any other movie in between as a palate cleanser
to
make sure that you still enjoy this one.
Because trying to watch hand-to-hand combat in any movie after the Raid is just like, it's not as good as the Raid.
Well, it does. It requires time and distance from those two things, which is why it is very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But for now that we're separated from that, for what it is, every other Marvel movie from here on out should actually kind of pay attention to this.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I thought the sequence, especially with Falcon, with how they shot him flying around, him being shot at and navigating and trying to attack people on the ground and then fly back and do more stuff.
Yeah.
And then using the missiles to his benefit to blow up part of the ship so he could actually get in there. I thought that whole sequence was wonderfully done. And that was so easy to do badly.
I would make the bold claim, this is the best flying I've ever seen in a movie.
From a man in a suit?
Yeah.
I actually thought I was more engaged in what Falcon was doing than I am in a lot of Iron Man.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That whole action sequence when the things are shooting at the whole time is like, this is fucking awesome.
This had some of the best action movie in a Marvel movie or in any action movie in their last decade.
Yeah.
Reference the elevator scene. You have a small space with a lot of dudes, and that can easily get out of control.
Yeah.
Any other director can just lose sight of such a small space, and here it was very effective.
Through a few monkey wrenches, the thing that makes his arm stick to the wall.
Yeah.
Take away some toys, take away his shield, and it makes it a more
and that's why
fight.
And the comparison to the Raid is unfortunate because that's a moment that tries to do some very similar things.
Yeah.
As if so it is a kind of unfair that it came out at the same time, but it's doing a lot of things that you would encounter in movies like The Raid.
Yeah.
Where it's like the hero is just going to be limited and it has to be quick and close and improvised.
The thing that I loved about the elevator sequence specifically was we saw most of that in the trailer. And when it still comes up in the movie, I'm still excited as soon as he goes like, do any of you guys want to get out?
Yeah.
And I think there's where the directing really shines.
Yeah.
In those little moments just before or just after big action where you get those little quips of witty dialogue.
Yep.
One of my other favorite moments is when Black Widow kicks the senator off the roof. And then she just goes on talking about who she thinks Steve Rogers should date.
Yeah.
That was great. And I really wish she had screamed, "This is S.H.I.E.L.D." or something. not Hydra.
Yeah.
And despite its seriousness, there are those funny moments, which between the first... all the Captain America movies have done this fairly well, having a dramatic, like a kind of action drama spy thriller, but with these funny moments that just really take you off. They surprise you.
Well, it really speaks that like Anthony J. Russo and really just everyone involved really understand the Captain America character, which is it's really helpful because Captain America, for people who don't know Captain America, always kind of seems like a joke. Like, why would I ever want to watch that guy?
Well,
and then once you actually get into it, it's like he's a really cool character. He's an awesome guy, and he's like the ultimate Boy Scout that you still want to root for.
And that's the problem with coming out of Boy Scout character like that, who is in all intents and purposes overpowered.
Yeah.
Like you got him and Superman, which have this problem. If you don't do him right, you do him wrong completely.
Yeah. If you don't make him a character you want to see, like outside of the suit, then you failed because it just won't work. And I think Chris Evans and the Russo brothers together, they really did a good job nailing him this time.
And it makes you I think the most exciting part was just realizing that in this movie, you could put these other genre elements into it and do it well. Because with all the spy action stuff that came kind of through, and it's like, oh wow, I like spy action movies. This is a spy action movie. I like this.
Yeah. And I never thought I'd get one from a Marvel movie.
No.
Right.
That's one thing I never thought I'd get, is like a spy, like espionage, like
Because-
1970s-esque, like thriller. Like, no way.
Because up until this point, what have you gotten from the Marvel movies other than just movies about the characters? Like, you can't place what kind of movie Iron Man is, what genre other than a comic book Marvel movie. With Captain America, you've got the spy action thriller.
Yeah.
With Guardians, you've got the sci-fi opera thing going on. And then with the previous movies, it's like, well, what kind of movie is it?
Yeah.
Outside of it being a comic book movie.
I think-
Hulk, you don't know. It's just like, that was somewhat of an action special effectsy
Yeah.
action. Iron Man's like action-y buddy comedy? Like the Shane Black thing kind of made it weird, but
Well,
if it had been... If it had,
rewrote Lethal Weapon 2 just with Iron Man now.
yeah, that's the thing. Is
It
like,
really
if,
did.
If it had been that from the beginning,
Yeah.
then we would be on, like, it wouldn't be as weird as it was.
Yeah.
Whereas this feels unified. It's like, there was a vision for this. The genre, they knew what movie this was.
And it's the only, I mean, I know, again, people disagree with me on this, but that's the other thing that I like so much about the Thor franchise, is because Thor really knows what it is. It wants to be basically like Shakespeare in space with a guy with a hammer. And like, that's what they do every time. And it's, they know what it is, and they have fun with it. It's like it or not, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think the Russo brothers did that with this movie. It happens to be that this is a more palatable and mass appealing franchise, or not franchise, but genre. So it worked out better for them. But I appreciate that both sets of films are like, no, this is what we're doing, and you will like it. Trust us.
I'm hoping that for Marvel, those first few movies were practice for them feeling out, making movies to begin with of their own franchises. And it's a shame that they kind of, came out of the gate with Iron Man and made it like a goofy, like you said, it can only be described as a superhero movie. Because I think Tony Stark could totally have a couple good dark movies.
Yeah.
But they'd probably have to recast Robert Downey Jr. It seems like he's fighting for every...
Well, like with
movie
Iron
they
Man,
get out
can't
of
you
him.
have like the high-tech thriller? Like there's like a tech thriller that you
Yeah.
can have that could be a cool fusion into a guy with a robot suit who's super smart.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you've got something there, right?
Do the... what is the technology called that he injected into his blood so he could control his suit?
Oh, Extremis?
Yeah. I mean, they kind of, again, ruined that with the third Iron Man movie, but they could have gone so far with the philosophical debates of whether you should do that or not, whether you should merge with the technology.
Yeah.
They don't deal with philosophy in the Iron Man movies.
No.
No,
But I think they're starting to now, and I'm hoping we see that continue through the individual movies.
Well, I don't think we're ever going to another Iron Man movie.
No, but I'm talking about,
Just
Black
in-
Panther,
Yeah.
Doctor Strange, Inhumans. I hope those are darker and take themselves more seriously than...
Or know what
the
they're
Iron
going
Man
to
movies
yeah,
are.
know what
I
they
don't need,
want to be.
I don't need them to be dark. I just need them to be. I need them to take themselves more seriously. It's not just like this is a cash cow. Because like,
Yeah.
and I don't mean that in a negative thing. Because I've bought all of them and I enjoy all of them. But it's better. Like I feel more rewarded for my fandom in something like Captain America, because it's like now you're actually trying to make a film, and I know I'm not stupid. I know you're making this to make money. Like I get that.
But they understand they're also making a movie.
Yes,
It's,
and
it's
this
a
one-
movie first, and it's a movie with these trappings. Like, they
Yeah.
understand filmmaking.
Yes.
Where you get that it's like just putting a comic book on the screen.
Yeah. Let's move on a little bit. I wanted to talk the screenplay a little bit, but I don't think there's really... I think we've kind of already
We've
covered
kind of
it.
covered it because it's like the logic problems, the kind of the things that kind of trip you up afterward.
Can I just...
Uh,
I had the one thing that I didn't talk about with the Winter Soldier that I thought was
Oh, sure.
interesting. Just in the way that they thought the film out, which it annoyed me a little bit, but I understand why they did it with the Winter Soldier on his mask.
Yeah. Oh.
When we first meet him, he's completely covered on his face. Then we see him again, and he's just got half his face covered in a bunch of dark makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see him again, just half the face covered, no makeup.
In shadow.
And then in shadow.
Yeah.
And then he just gets rid of the mask completely and never goes back to the mask.
Oh,
Which is kind of funny because they're revealing Bucky, but it's also the Winter Soldier just stopped caring.
No, I figured this out. I thought about it after you complained about it. It's that when he was first showing up, he had all this time to prepare. And then as things were going, they were getting more and more urgent, and he had less time to do the makeup,
I can't
put
put
on the
my
mask,
makeup on.
put on the other mask. So he kept going like, oh, I don't have time to do this in my eyes. All right, I gotta go. And then by the end of the movie, he's like, no, you need to go right now. I was like, I gotta put my makeup on. No, you gotta go. And he's like, okay, I guess.
Your new goggles got delayed in Idaho. We have to wait.
That rhymed. Your goggles got
Check the
delayed in
tracking.
Idaho.
It says on the truck for delivery for today.
They could be here. Just give me another 5 minutes.
No, go. He already knows you're Bucky. We'll make sure your hair flutters in front of your face a bunch.
Yeah, it's like I said, I figured it out. That's not a flaw in the movie.
I never said it was a flaw. It was just amusing.
I think we should talk Black Widow.
Okay.
Because this podcast has been very up and down on quality female characters over the past since the beginning.
Is it sad that I'm like, well, cool, a female character, yay.
I actually thought they used
That's
her.
not sad. It's that.
Only the way you say it.
This is the
sad.
first.
Well, no,
time-
yay, and like finally we have one.
Well,
I thought they used her better in this movie than
Yeah.
they used her in the other ones. The only
yeah,
time,
this is the
She
only
had more
time.
time for sure.
Yeah,
The
and this is
only-
the first time she actually felt like Black Widow to me.
the only
Yeah.
time that I had a problem with what happened to her was when they blew up the base.
Mm-hmm.
One, they're 6 floors down, and they just walk out. Like, that crater must have been massive. And then she looks destroyed in that sequence. Like, when Captain America picks her up, she's shaking. Like, you can see her limbs shaking. Like, there's got to be some serious trauma or internal bleeding. But then she's fine the next scene. She's
I think
just fine and
that
dandy.
this is the best version of her yet so far.
Yeah.
But it's clear that no one making these movies know what to do with her.
But,
And
like,
she has cool moments. I think. Go
She
ahead.
was gonna kill you.
Well,
What I think.
What I was trying
And
to
when
say...
we were,
Go ahead.
But what I was trying to get with the whole, like, the bomb thing and then them showing her get hurt, like, they're trying to show how fragile she is, but they can't keep her fragile. They'd be like, she gets hurt when Captain America doesn't, but she still needs to kick ass, so we're just gonna gloss over that kind of, and she's okay. Like, when she gets shot, they get stitched up and she's fine. She can still kick ass, and it's really kind of fun. But you never actually see her cower in this one, which I appreciated.
No,
she was very gung-ho, I'm gonna get the job done, I'm a master spy.
and she still helped everyone after she got shot. Like,
Yeah.
they did such a better job with her, but no one has figured out how to really depict the Black Widow character. And it speaks more so because she's been almost a completely different character from Iron Man 2
every
to
time.
Avengers to here. Like, she's completely different every time.
Her
But this-
hairstyle, every movie changes,
That doesn't bother
which is a trope of women in general. Like,
Yeah.
the hair's got to be different every time.
That's just to keep consistency
Yeah.
with the comic book, where her hair also changes every
Oh,
time
it
someone
does?
new draws her. I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
Comic
But
books in general.
Which story arc hair are you going with
Yeah.
this time?
Like, the 2 moments I loved of her the most is when she reveals herself, when she pulls off the face.
That's cool.
She's like, I got you, man.
Yeah, but that's...
And then when he thinks he has her with the badge thing,
Yeah.
not the badge, the pin, but then she's just like, well, I need to get out of the situation. I'm gonna electrocute myself. Like,
Yeah.
she just told she knows what to do each time. She takes so many hits in this movie, but every hit she takes never actually puts her down.
I can have one complaint for that scene, though. I was about to love this movie and say it was the greatest thing ever when the old woman started kicking everyone's ass. I'm like, wow, go this
Yeah.
fucking movie.
Yeah.
And then it came out through Black Widow, and I was like, oh, that immediately kind of takes that.
I did have that moment too. I
Yeah.
was like, wouldn't it be just cool if there was just a random old lady who is actually competent in the movie?
I was like, oh, wow, so
Oh.
she's she's not
It's
a
just Black
badass.
Widow.
But they're like, how did these people get to their position?
But
Should one of them be a badass?
But that does speak to the kind of the problem where it's like, well, we need to have the keyword, buzzword, strong female character.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize that we don't mean can lift a car.
Yeah.
What we mean is that she is flawed. She has her own personality. She has worries, concerns, and she's multifaceted.
Yeah.
Every other male character gets to be multifaceted. So the weakness is that we kind of fixate on it. We're still in that like 101 aspect where we're fixating. She's got to be able to punch a guy. Well, how does she feel?
That's the thing that I liked about this one, though, is I feel like this one they did much better with those aspects. Like, she actually felt like she was her own character. She was in this because Nick Fury had problems, and that's the only reason why she was helping, was because of her respect and love for Nick Fury. And I think that really came through, and I thought that was a really cool
And
thing
she
to have
had
in it.
more personal consequences to it.
Yeah.
Like when she's putting all the information on the internet and he's like, "Do you sure you want to do that? Everyone will know who you are through and through." And then she deals with it at the end of them, like, "Shouldn't we just throw you in jail for everything you've ever done your entire life?" And she totally owns up to it. Be like, I had to do it to save the world, guys.
No, but that scene. That moment,
my.
that was the best Black Widow moment in the entire.
absolutely.
Like, the only time, like, that was the first time I actually felt like I was watching Black Widow when she. Like, you're not gonna put me in jail. You need me.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think that was foreshadowing to Civil War.
I think so too.
That whole end sequence, we see 3 bits in a row that are foreshadowing to Civil War.
Yeah, I agree.
And after seeing that scene where it's like, you're not going to take me in, I was like, I want her in a movie. Like, it's to its credit of how they did her character, I wanted more.
Yeah, I don't.
And that's not, I didn't say that after Avengers, right? Because it's like,
Right.
Black who?
Yeah.
It's a shame they can't use her on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She'd be a great addition to that team.
But we
Yeah.
should stay more on target again.
Stay on target.
Yep. There's one. I think we should move on to. There's something I really want to talk about. This Nick Fury.
Nick Fury.
I think Nick Fury is where we end this podcast.
Yeah.
Nick Fury is, I think, the biggest question mark of this movie of why did he survive?
Because
What purpose is he going to be? He's going underground. Like, how's he even going to work in the rest of the movies? Because technically, S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't exist anymore. Coulson is kind of making it in the TV show, but it's still not going to be S.H.I.E.L.D. by Avengers 3.
I think it's Sword.
Sword?
Yeah.
You think so?
I'm buying it.
I don't know anything about Sword.
It's another organization. After S.H.I.E.L.D. falls apart, Sam Jackson remakes Sword.
I mean, that makes sense, but I'm thinking more as, like, do we need it?
I think it...
do we have enough time for it?
Yeah.
Before the bubble,
No.
and as with all bubbles, they burst.
Well, I
And
mean, that's a lot of years from now until... I think
Well,
they'll
yeah.
make it through... They'll make it through Phase 3. They'll make it till...
Yeah, I think they have enough goodwill for
Infinity
people to keep filming.
Wars
For sure.
Movies, yeah.
But do they have enough time? Like, I don't know. There's a point where too much planning, too much kind of weaving out could be a problem. But that's just a speculation.
Yeah, and like the thing with Sword is like that's great, but
They have
I'm trying to
name
think
the
of-
show.
I was going to say, I mean, they carried on after Winter Soldier. We were all saying, how are they going to be agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when S.H.I.E.L.D. was just dissolved?
That was my second question after
Yeah.
this movie.
But here's my question though is like with Sam Jackson dying in this movie than not dying, they create two major problems with the Marvel universe. One, it solidifies that no one can die in these movies.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a major character in any way, shape, or form, you are completely safe. You have plot armor unlike anyone else has ever seen.
You can't. It just basically makes what Joss Whedon does, what his specialty is,
yeah.
making you cry. Is they cut that out. Like he
Yeah.
can't kill Captain America.
Yeah, we're
Right.
never gonna buy it if a character dies now.
Which I think we are. I think they're making sure people don't cry too hard when Captain America dies. It's like, oh, look, Nick Fury did it. So can Steve Rogers. He'll be back.
And it is a general
That's
level.
trope of comic books for one, though. So if they do it in the
It's
movies,
one that
I don't
doesn't
think it's
have
gonna
to
bother me.
exist.
And
it goes to
it
the
doesn't
ballsy
have to.
thing.
Yeah, it doesn't have to exist, and it certainly didn't have to exist in this movie because with Nick Fury dying, it's a better movie.
Yeah.
And it's just it gives better motivation, it gives better everything. And then it actually motivates Captain America being in charge and calling the shots better, more than just Nick Fury being wrong and having going, well, I guess you're calling the shots now, Cap. Like we didn't need that. Like
Right.
if he was dead, then yeah, Captain America's calling the shots because he's fucking Captain America.
And it's one instance where you're like, I bet he's not. I bet Nick Fury's not dead. Of course he's not dead.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, for like the last part of that movie,
Yeah,
because it's like, okay, whatever. I mean, whatever you're doing now, you could just as easily undo.
and they already did it super. They did it in the Avengers, the exact same thing. They killed this guy to rally, and you guys all got rallied up and went and fought the bad guy. And they do it again in this one. It's like
I think
I imagine there was a meeting after S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was started.
Yeah.
And Joss Whedon's like, what the hell, man? I wanted him dead.
But again, in my bias of Marvel comic books, no one actually dies. If they do die for a while, they're just hanging out on the Rainbow Bridge. They're going to come back later.
And
Always.
I get that.
Just
and
bring
that's,
the Rainbow
but,
Bridge into the movies.
but that's to sell comics. We're
I
not
know.
selling comics. We're selling movie tickets.
And
which
that's an
sell
understanding
way
of-
faster than comics.
And that's an understanding of the medium, where
Yeah.
you're going to come across a point where, comics are very different from movies in terms of their long-range storytelling.
Yeah.
I know.
For sure.
That's just me going, I actually don't care that much.
I do and I don't because I want the best movie possible, and I feel like they shortchanged just a little bit. Like I said, I still really enjoy this movie. I think it's one of the best Marvel movies we have. I think it's great, but there are so many little things that they could have done that would have made it just a fantastic movie in general, and not just a great Marvel.
Well, and then the kind of the big the debate we won't have on this podcast, but a question you can put forward is, the comics are always there, the storylines are always there. Don't you want there to be an excellent movie?
Yeah.
And then just like whatever has to get the shaft. Well, of course you have the comics for it, and you can reference it, but you almost want to make the better movie than the better comic on screen, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
that's
agree,
a question I put
I
forward.
totally understand that.
Yeah.
But if that's the way they're playing it...
But this movie is good enough to where it raises those questions,
Yes.
right? Where no other Marvel movie beforehand has brought this to attention.
When I watched Thor: Dark World, I'm like, this is a great comic movie. I love this because I love Thor and I love Loki, and this is exactly for me. And then I can understand why people who don't like comics are like, that movie was kind of boring and dumb.
It was like, well,
why did I watch them chase a hammer around London for 30 minutes?
That's
Because
so
it was
weird.
hilarious.
Because it was awesome.
Yeah.
But I get why people don't attach themselves to this one. Whereas this is the first one where I feel like people who aren't comic book fans would still show up to this one and go, that was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the first movie where Marvel has learned that they have the liberty to kill a character. I think before Winter Soldier, they'd say we have to keep all these characters in. We have to keep everything we can do to draw the fans in the franchise. Maybe now they learn they can kind of take it out and make movies for standalone.
And I think we're going to find out if they actually learn that lesson in Age of Ultron. I think there's going to be some serious bloodshed in Age of Ultron. I honestly do. And
I don't know who will die.
I don't know either. But I think someone will kick the bucket. I don't know why I'm so convinced that they will.
Who could it be?
I hope someone kicks the bucket.
I don't.
All the title characters have movies coming up after that. I mean, we know Robert Downey Jr.
Except for Hulk.
Yeah, but they're never giving Hulk its own movie.
But Black Widow, Hulk, Hawkeye, Quicksilver,
Scarlet Witch.
I mean, would we be upset if the villains die? I don't think those count.
But I don't think they're going to be villains. They're just brainwashed.
Sure.
Also,
I think by the end of Age of Ultron, they'll be the good side.
Brainwashed or on the wrong side for the wrong reasons.
I guess we'll find out.
I also think that they're making them Inhumans.
I do too. We've seen brainwashing on Agent Carter. It's pretty extreme. So
and in this, Winter Soldier.
Yep.
Oh, that was a good villain, by the way.
I know.
Just I'm rubbing my ring. You're my dude now.
So I think they're setting up their cards to where they can actually make bigger moves now, and whether or not they'll do it, I don't know. Because I agree, we've seen the slate coming up, so we know who all has movies, but we also know there's a lot of characters coming up who we haven't seen yet,
right? And
that are replacing movies that we would be getting.
I hope they will let Loki not be in a movie for a change.
I can agree with that.
Can't with the way with Thor ended. You can't
because he is Odin right now.
He's obviously going to be in Age of Ultron, but
I don't think he's going to be in Age of Ultron. Is he?
They have his staff.
They talked about.
He might want his staff back.
I mean, maybe. Either way, I mean, I get why Marvel's like, we need him.
Idris Elba kind of spoiled it, mentioning he and Thomas Hiddleston were doing reshoots for it. So
I have a feeling it's just going to be a quick.
You need to hit.
I think they'll be the same. They'll be in it the same way that what's his name? The Abomination's going to be in it.
Oh,
I think it's just going to be a quick hit, and then
could be.
Or the way Natalie Portman was in the Avengers. as an offshoot, as a photo.
No, he's doing all right.
I think they'll have a line or two, but they're not going to be a major player by any means.
I wonder if he'll be passing the torch to Ultron, who we'll see reappear through several more movies, which that follows the comic books too.
Yeah.
Ultron just won't go away.
Yeah.
You can't kill Ultron.
Right.
Hank Pym made an indestructible villain, which makes
Tony Stark.
My bad.
Which if we're going to cross over universes, Ultron versus Jane from the Ender's books. Boom.
All right. Well, I think we should keep moving on to the end of this thing. I know there's the best thing about the Captain America thing, especially for fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is that it can open up the door to such a great discussion of everything Marvel Cinematic Universe, much unlike most of the other Marvel movies. But that also means that we could talk forever, and I don't want to do that. So
nor do I.
We should move on to the end of this thing, which begins with.
Really need to pee.
So it begins with quotes.
Let's get going, guys.
I am going to start with quotes, which I like to do. My quote happens to be the first line in the movie. It set the tone for the movie so unbelievably well and cracked me up. And this is when I went to the double feature of this thing. It was Captain America 1 and Captain America 2. And after watching Captain America 1, I'm like, there's no way this could be as good as Captain America. And the beginning was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's just Falcon, who sadly did not really get mentioned in this episode at all, although he was great, is running, and then Captain America runs by and goes, on your left. And then continues to do that like 5 times. It just pisses Falcon off. No, you're not going to do it. On your left. Ah!
I would hate him. I'd be like, God damn you. You make everyone feel inadequate.
But it is such a great moment just because it's funny and it speaks to Captain America's just character. His kind of sarcastic. You still like him, but you're kind of a dick sometimes. But it's like that kind of a dick that you really enjoy. Like you can tell he's having fun while poking fun at you. Mm-hmm. And I love the follow-up line of you should be ashamed of yourself. Go do another lap. And then he looks away, looks back. I assume you just took it. It's a really great opening scene for this movie.
Yeah. It established that they understand the little moments.
Yep.
And that's where it's going to get me.
Yes.
I'm a fan of the little moments because that's where you're going to get the characters.
Yes.
For me, Nick Fury's like asking for Agent Hill and Fury's like, hey, the car itself is like, communications array damaged. And Fury's like, well, it's not damaged. And the car is like, air conditioning is fully functional or fully operational. And I'm like, that is hilarious. Because
Yeah.
even the computers have a sense of humor, which I like. Like,
Yeah.
again, to that little moment, it's like, yeah, the air conditioning works.
In the middle of one of the most intense action scenes.
Yeah.
in the
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's easy to kind of lose track of that one because there's so much going on in that scene. Just such a funny little quip. Just relieve that tension.
He is fighting the Winter Soldier, so it's apt that the air conditioning would be working.
Ooh, nice one.
Wow.
And she brought it around. Time to go home, everybody.
Well, my quote, I suppose. I did really appreciate it when Alexander Pierce looks at his maid and goes, I wish you would have knocked. Pew!
Yep, more comedy in a really dark scene.
And I will say another person we didn't really mention in this podcast because we
Was Alexander Pierce?
So Robert Redford,
Yeah.
such a great villain.
Yep.
He's a great villain.
I would say he's the either second or third best villain they have.
And that's in that moment, you're actually more afraid of him than you are of the Winter Soldier.
Which
Yeah.
you should be.
He's just waiting for orders.
It's-
Pierce is like, I have to kill so many people.
Yep.
I feel so bad about it, but not really.
And he's witty about it, just like any good villain should.
Yeah.
Be able to
But
hold their
also,
own.
that maid, why'd you leave your phone over? And you left your phone over in the kitchen? You weren't even in the kitchen when you left earlier.
Dumb
Right.
maid. She deserved to die.
Yeah.
My favorite quote from the movie wasn't actually a quote, but a moment. As I don't know, as we all who've seen the movie know, there's one point where Captain America hides his USB drive behind a giant row of bubble gum.
Mm-hmm.
And when he goes to retrieve it, the entire row is gone. And then just in one beat, Scarlett Johansson pops over and blows a giant bubble.
That was pretty
Another injection of, I think, what the Russo brothers can do best, comedic timing.
Yeah.
They came from two of my favorite comedies on television, so I hope they keep working for Marvel.
And it's actually a great moment for her beyond the comedic timing. It's like, I'm the master spy. You thought you could hide something from me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and Hubba Bubba.
Yeah, by hiding it there, is he really just insulting Hubba Bubba?
I think so.
Fucking no one's going for Hubba Bubba.
He's 50 years old and he still knows that nobody's going to eat that
No one
Bubba.
wants that gum.
The review system I've been going back and forth in my head for a while now. Moments from Captain America's 2 movies.
Favorite moment?
Favorite moment from the 2 movies. Not 2 moments, but 1 moment from either movie.
I already
Captain
picked a moment
America
as my
movies?
quote.
Yeah, you can't
Dang
use
it.
that one again. I can go first if it helps
Okay.
you guys.
Yeah.
I don't.
So my moment to review this movie would be from the first movie when Steve Rogers is still a little Steve Rogers. He's a little cute little guy.
Uh-huh.
And he's getting beaten up in the alley, and they
Uh-huh.
punch him. And he stands up and grabs the trash can shield, much for himself, and says, I can do this all day. And it's the first moment, I think, in really any of the Marvel movies where I went, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Like, just really excited for, well, not counting the Hulk, because I am a sucker for anything and everything Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
But for like a Captain America movie, when he's holding that little trash can shield and he's like, I can do this all day, I'm like, they just nailed Steve Rogers, and they made me excited for the rest of this franchise.
Yeah.
And this movie nailed Captain America and made me excited for the rest of Marvel.
Gotcha. I think the scene in the first one, I'm going to have to go with the first one because there's Tommy Lee Jones' character throws that grenade.
Yep.
And Steve Rogers is the only one who dives for it. Anything with, I mean, to be generic, anything with Tommy Lee Jones' character in there is fun because he's so kind of wry about it.
Mm-hmm.
But just that moment both encapsulates the humor of Captain America and his attitude, which, like, your shield moment is like, yeah, got it.
Yep.
With a little bit of humor on the side. I think that's that moment for me.
All right, I really like the moment when it's the beginning of the third act, and it's a classic trope from any movie. Captain America takes the intercom and is delivering his speech to the SHIELD headquarters
Okay.
about how SHIELD has been taken over by Hydra, and they have to rally to save the day, and it's a great, like, any classic movie, Independence Day speech, whatever. And then at the end of it, Sam Wilson just goes, "Did you write that down first?" I think it's just another quick nod to the way that these movies are very self-aware, and especially this one, it can take itself so seriously and still be like, oh yeah, we're a comedy still, and we can have those whips from the comic books that I love.
You're coming back after that intro breakdown.
I'll just do the thing that I like in the first one. Damn it, I can't remember his name now.
Who?
One of my favorite to look at actors, Mr.
Oh.
Blue Eyes. He plays Timothy Dugan
Yes.
from the Howling Commandos.
Yes.
And pretty much anytime he smiles with that big old mustache and puts a cigar in his mouth, I'm just like, you're my favorite person. I love you. You're an American.
How does that review the movie?
I don't know. It's just, I love, it's, I mean, he's
I
great.
must ask you to tie that together.
He's great to look at. Captain America is great to look at. These movies are really, really fun to watch.
Okay.
Acceptable.
They have a
That
lot of
works.
really good
Acceptable.
details.
Yeah, I can. That works.
Okay.
All right. So
I really like that actor.
next week, due to yet another family situation, we will be off. I apologize for missing 2 weeks like this, unless we can somehow get a car episode out, which I'm not sure. It just depends on our time and capabilities of editing and whatnot.
Yeah.
The week after that, though, we have a request from Chewy that we have not done in a while. We're finally going to do the movie Oculus, which if you have not seen,
All right.
is a pretty fun horror movie.
I'm excited.
And then after that, we have one from John that he's been wanting to do for a while.
Really?
Yep, we have the Bond movie Battle.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Whose hairy chest do you like more?
All of it.
That's Sean Connery. So that's what we have coming up. So I'm sorry for the week off. I will try to get something out, but I can't promise it. But then after that, we have Oculus and then Bond movies and a whole bunch of other stuff lined up that I'm excited to do. So
It's almost like we're an ongoing thing. Weird.
Yeah, we try to be weekly, but we have lives. So thank you to Ryan for coming on, finally.
Woohoo! I'll be back when you do
Good.
RoboCop.
Oh.
I don't want to have
Then
to
you'll
watch
never be
that
back.
again.
I would do the original RoboCop.
Well, I originally told you I'd never come, so
Yeah.
I'll be back when you do RoboCop.
Fair enough.
The remake
Okay.
was so bad.
It really is. But with that, I have to say, bye!